Imagine a world overrun by terrifying creatures. So horrifying that just one look at them drives people to take their own lives. No one knows what they are, where they came from, or how to stop them. The only way to survive? Never open your eyes. Sounds chilling, right? Well, that's exactly what happens in today's story. Get ready for a thriller that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Our story begins with Sebastian, who is enjoying a skating session with his daughter, Anna. Both of them look happy, and we can see how much Sebastian loves his daughter. But soon, something strange happens. They hear eerie sounds echoing around them. Sensing danger, Sebastian grabs Anna and starts running. But before they can escape, a group of blind people suddenly attacks them. These people steal Sebastian's food and brutally beat him. Sebastian, filled with anger, is ready to fight back, but Anna stops him, begging him not to. Reluctantly, he spares them and instead focuses on escaping with his daughter. Covering both their eyes, Sebastian carefully makes his way out. As they move forward, we get a terrifying glimpse of Barcelona. The entire city is in ruins. Through a radio broadcast, we learn that strange creatures are roaming around. And the worst part? If anyone sees them, they instantly lose control and commit suicide. This explains why Sebastian has kept his eyes shut. As they continue their journey, Sebastian hears voices nearby. He immediately tells Anna to hide and approaches the group alone. Desperate for help, he tells them, "I haven't eaten for 2 days, I have no food, and I'm badly injured." But their leader refuses to help him. Thinking quickly, Sebastian offers them valuable information. "I'm an engineer," he says. "I know where my company's generator is located." In the freezing cold of Barcelona, electricity is a necessity for survival. Realizing the potential benefit, the group finally agrees to help him and takes him to their hideout, a seemingly safe spot where other survivors are also taking shelter. Once inside, they remove their blindfolds, revealing that the group has been living in an old bus parking lot. The leader introduces Sebastian to a doctor, who begins treating his wounds. That night, as Sebastian finally sits down to eat, as Sebastian was eating, his eyes fell on a man who had no eyes at all. That man then told Sebastian a horrifying story. "Some people came to my family. They had seen those creatures, but for some reason they weren't affected. They wanted us to see the creatures too. They even marked my family's leader with a strange symbol and forced their eyes open to make them look. But before they could do the same to me, I grabbed a knife and gouged out my own eyes. That's the only reason they spared me." Hearing this chilling tale, Sebastian quietly returned to the bus where everyone was sleeping. But instead of resting, he sneaked into the doctor's cabin and took the bus keys. He started the engine, preparing to drive away. The lady doctor, realizing what he was doing, asked in shock, "What are you doing?" But Sebastian didn't answer. Instead, he locked himself inside and drove the bus out of the parking area. As he made his escape, the doctor and the group leader tried to stop him, but he managed to get the bus out. However, just as he reached the road, he lost control, and the bus crashed, flipping over. Sebastian crawled out, this time without covering his eyes. The group leader followed him, also with his eyes uncovered. Suddenly, strong winds started blowing. Sebastian turned to the man and said, "They're here. Look at them. Aren't they beautiful?" The leader, confused yet mesmerized, looked at the creatures. The moment he did, something strange happened to his eyes. Overwhelmed, he picked up a shard of glass and took his own life. In that instant, Sebastian saw the man's soul leave his body and ascend toward the sky. But unlike others, Sebastian himself wasn't affected by the creatures. Moments later, the lady doctor stepped out of the bus. Before she could react, Sebastian forcefully made her look at the creatures too. The moment she saw them, she walked straight into the spinning wheels of the bus, ending her life. However, the blind man, the one who had gouged out his own eyes, was still alive. Sebastian spared him, apologizing. "I can't free you from this life. Forgive me." At this point, it became clear. Sebastian wasn't in control of his own actions. He believed he was saving people by helping them die. The creatures had taken over his mind. Just then, another boy accidentally saw the creatures. Overcome by their influence, he set himself on fire, taking everyone else inside the bus with him. As the flames engulfed everything, Sebastian watched in a trance. He could see the souls of all the dead rising into the sky. And then, Anna, Sebastian's daughter, appeared beside him. Smiling, she said, "You didn't kill them. You saved them." At this moment, the shocking truth was revealed. Anna wasn't alive. She had died long ago. Yet for some reason, she was appearing to Sebastian. Suddenly, the story takes us back 2 months into the past. One day, news spread across the city. People were mysteriously taking their own lives. Shocked and terrified, Sebastian rushed to his wife and daughter. On his way, he saw countless people ending their lives, leaving him in utter confusion. He had no idea what was happening or why people were acting this way. Somehow he made his way to Anna's school, grabbed her, and started heading home. As they moved through the chaotic streets, Sebastian saw people fighting aggressively. Sensing danger, he took Anna and ran into a nearby church for safety. Inside, the priest spoke to him. "You must witness the angels sent by God himself. They have come in the form of divine beings." Hearing this, Sebastian realized the horrifying truth. Some unknown creatures had invaded their city, and merely looking at them was enough to drive people to suicide. Just then, the priest himself stepped outside to witness these so-called angels, leaving Sebastian even more disturbed. Determined to reunite his family, he took Anna and ran home, only to witness his wife's tragic death in a horrific accident right before his eyes. The story now shifts back to the present. Sebastian enters a church once again, this time to confess his sins. Strangely, he felt no guilt for killing people, but he did regret lying to them before taking their lives. In his mind, he still believed that he had freed them. Inside the church, he met a group of people who worshipped these creatures, calling them angels. They believed these beings had traveled from afar and were here to liberate them. Without hesitation, they willingly looked at the creatures, and just like that, they ended their own lives. Sebastian then climbed to the rooftop of a building, scanning the streets for more people, more souls he could supposedly free. That's when he spotted a blindfolded girl entering a store. He silently moved to attack her, but before he could strike, her friends arrived, along with their dogs. The dogs immediately sensed Sebastian's presence and started barking aggressively at him. Thinking quickly, Sebastian played innocent, pretending to be a good person. He lied, saying he had access to a generator. Upon hearing this, the group decided to take him to their safe house. Once inside, Sebastian learned that the girl's name was Claire. She wasn't alone. She had a little girl named Sophia with her. Seeing Sophia reminded Sebastian of Anna, his own daughter. Soon, Claire's companions, Octo and Rafa, started questioning him about the generator. Realizing he couldn't lie any longer, Sebastian finally confessed. "I don't have a generator," he admitted. "I only said that to survive." Hearing this, Rafa was furious. He grabbed Sebastian, ready to throw him out. But just then, just as Rafa was about to throw Sebastian out, little Sophia stepped in between them. She started speaking in German, desperately pleading with Rafa not to kick Sebastian out. However, Rafa didn't understand German. That's when Sebastian, who knew the language, translated Sophia's words for him. Hearing her out, Rafa hesitated for a moment before finally letting go of Sebastian. Later, Sebastian sat down with Sophia and gently asked her about her family. Sophia's expression turned sorrowful as she began telling her story. "I was on a ship with my mother," she said, her voice trembling. "Suddenly, people started jumping into the water, taking their own lives. My mother saved me. She held my hand and brought me to a forest. That's when we heard a radio broadcast about a safe place, somewhere in the mountains. She then pulled out a small piece of paper and, with a few strokes, sketched the location of the safe place. My mother was taking me there," she continued, "but somewhere along the way, we got separated. I lost her." Hearing this, Sebastian felt a deep pang of sorrow for Sophia. Her story reminded him of his own daughter, Anna. At that moment, a woman named Isabel spoke up. "We should head to that place," she suggested. Rafa, now calmer, nodded in agreement. That place actually seems safe. The group debated their next move, and eventually, they decided to go. They started preparing for the journey, gathering food and supplies for the trip to the mountains. Just then, the story shifts to the past. Sebastian, blindfolded, was searching for medicine for his daughter, Anna. At that time, Anna was still alive. He desperately looked through abandoned stores, but he couldn't find what he needed. Disappointed and worried, he returned home to Anna, still determined to protect her. The story then returns to the present. As Sebastian sat with the group, looking at Sophia, memories of Anna flooded his mind. The resemblance between the two was undeniable. That night, when everyone had fallen asleep, late at night, while everyone was asleep, Sebastian quietly got up and partially cut the ropes of Rafa's dogs. The next morning, as the group set out toward the safe place, the eerie creatures appeared once again. This time, their presence was even more terrifying. One by one, the survivors began hearing the voices of their loved ones, whispers calling them, urging them to look. Suddenly, Rafa's dogs broke free. Their ropes had already been weakened, thanks to Sebastian's earlier efforts. At the same time, Sophia heard her mother's voice. Tears welled up in her eyes as she instinctively reached for her blindfold, ready to take it off. But just in time, Octavio grabbed her hand, stopping her. Meanwhile, Rafa frantically searched for his dogs, but then a gut-wrenching sound echoed in the air, something that made it clear his dogs had been killed. The sheer panic made Rafa lose control. Overwhelmed by fear and grief, he tore off his blindfold. The moment his eyes met the creatures, he succumbed to their power. A vacant expression took over his face before he violently smashed his own head against a glass surface, ending his life. Sebastian stood frozen, watching it all unfold. Meanwhile, Rafa's now possessed dogs turned feral and lunged at Roberto, sinking their teeth into his arm. Seeing the chaos unravel, Octavio acted fast and ushered everyone into a nearby house for safety. They had managed to escape for now, but Rafa was gone. Once inside, Sebastian faked a sense of grief over Rafa's death, though his real emotions remained hidden. As they all tried to process what had happened, Claire turned to Sebastian. "I heard my brother's voice," she confessed. "He was calling me to come to him." Then she looked straight at Sebastian. "And you?" she asked. "Whose voice did you hear?" Sebastian didn't respond. He simply turned away and walked towards Sophia. The little girl was still trembling with fear. In an attempt to comfort her, Sebastian handed her a locket, his daughter Anna's locket. Sophia's face lit up as she clutched it tightly. Just then, the story shifted to the past. A horrifying scene unfolded. Groups of people were being forcefully marked on their foreheads, branded with a strange symbol before being forced to look at the creatures. Their screams echoed in the air. Anna, terrified, covered her ears as she watched from a distance. Seeing her distress, Sebastian quickly put headphones on her to block out the terrifying sounds. The story returned to the present. Now, Anna, at least a vision of her, stood before Sebastian once again. "Kill them all," she whispered to him. "Set them free." Before Sebastian could react, Claire approached him. "The locket you gave Sophia," she said. "It has the name Anna engraved on it. Who is Anna? Your wife? Your daughter?" Once again, Sebastian remained silent. Claire sighed. "Listen to me," she said firmly. "The voices we hear, they're not real. They're just tricks. You can't trust them." But Anna's vision remained in front of Sebastian. "She's lying," Anna whispered. "It's all real." Sebastian's mind swirled with confusion. Who was telling the truth? Meanwhile, Roberto's wound worsened. His condition was deteriorating fast. Seeing this, Claire, Sebastian, and Octavio decided to go out in search of medicine. As they searched through an abandoned house, Sebastian wandered into a dimly lit room. The large window at the far end stood wide open, the air chilling and still. And then, he saw her, Anna. She was standing right there, looking at him. Her voice was soft yet commanding. "Bring Octavio into this room." Sebastian tricks Octavio into entering the room. The moment Octavio steps inside, his eyes land on the creatures. In an instant, he falls under their control. A chilling silence follows as Octavio, now possessed, takes his own life. But this time, something is different. Sebastian watches in shock. Octavio's spirit doesn't appear like before. Guilt crashes over him like a tidal wave. Meanwhile, Claire brings Sebastian back to the group and tends to Roberto's wound. With a heavy heart, she informs everyone about Octavio's death. Sebastian, now consumed by remorse, begins to question everything. He feels like a criminal, like a murderer. That's when Anna's voice whispers to him again. "Dad, why didn't you kill Claire?" Sebastian hesitates before replying. "Because something doesn't feel right. I think I've been making a mistake." Despite the turmoil, the group resumes their journey toward the safe haven. But danger follows close behind. The same group of people, those who force others to look at the creatures, catch up to them. In the chaos, Roberto and Isabel are captured. Sebastian, thinking fast, rushes Claire and Sophia into an abandoned house. That's when Claire starts putting the pieces together. She looks at Sebastian with suspicion. "You saw them, didn't you?" she asks. "That's how you knew to hide so quickly?" Her gaze shifts to Sebastian's glasses, and that's when it clicks. Sebastian can see the creatures, yet, unlike everyone else, he remains unaffected. Realization turns into rage. Claire's trust shatters instantly. "You lied to us," she snaps. "How long have you been keeping this from us?" Meanwhile, Anna's voice grows more insistent. "Show them," she urges. "Show them the truth." But this time, Sebastian doesn't obey. Anger flares in his eyes as he yells at Anna. Claire, witnessing this, becomes terrified. She grabs Sophia and bolts for the exit. Sebastian chases after them. He catches hold of Sophia. But before Claire can help, she stumbles into a hidden trap. With a sharp cry, she falls unconscious. Anna seizes the moment. "Now," she urges. "Take off Sophia's blindfold." But something inside Sebastian finally snaps. "No," he says firmly. "I can't do this anymore." Anna's expression changes. A thin stream of blood begins trickling down her forehead. She fights harder, desperately trying to force Sebastian's hand, but he refuses. He won't hurt Sophia. Not this time. And then, the past comes rushing back. It was supposed to be a happy night, Anna's birthday. But then, those people arrived. The ones who could see the creatures. They captured Sebastian and Anna, forcing her to look at them. In an instant, she was lost. The creatures took hold of her mind. With a hollow look in her eyes, Anna climbed to the roof and jumped. Sebastian watched helplessly as his daughter fell to her death. That night, his own eyes met the creatures for the first time. And that's when Anna's voice started following him. Ever since that moment, she had been whispering to him, convincing him that killing people was the only way to set them free. But now he finally understood the truth. Back in the present, Sebastian shakes Claire awake. Looking into her eyes, he finally confesses everything. "I see her, Claire," he admits. "I see Anna. And I believed I was saving them." A long silence hangs between them. Then, with a deep breath, he says, "I can help you. I can get you both to safety." But before Claire can respond, a woman suddenly appears. And she's not alone. The woman suddenly attacks them, forcing them to open their eyes and look at the creatures. But before she can succeed, Sebastian lunges at her. A fierce struggle ensues, and with one final push, he throws her off the edge. Without wasting another second, he rushes Claire and Sophia into a car and speeds away. But they're not safe yet. More attackers emerge, trying to stop them. Sebastian swerves through the chaos, narrowly escaping their grasp. After an intense chase, he finally reaches the gondola lift, his only way to get to the mountain fortress, the safe zone. But before they can board, the enemies catch up. Sebastian, realizing there's no other option, turns to Claire. "Take Sophia and run," he orders. As soon as they move, he detonates a nearby car. The explosion sends their pursuers flying, buying them some time. Claire grabs Sophia's hand and races toward the lift. But just as they're about to reach safety, a staircase collapses beneath them. Sophia dangles in midair, her tiny hands gripping the edge. Panic surges through Claire. With every ounce of strength, she pulls Sophia up, saving her from certain death. But now, Claire realizes something. She won't make it to the lift blindfolded. Gritting her teeth, she rips the blindfold off. Her heart pounds as she forces herself forward, keeping her gaze low, avoiding any glimpse of the creatures. Meanwhile, Sebastian fights off the remaining attackers, doing everything in his power to keep them away from Claire and Sophia. Claire finally reaches the lift station, but the lifts aren't working. She frantically searches for a solution. No buttons work. Nothing responds. Desperate, her eyes land on a bell. Without hesitation, she starts ringing it, louder and louder. The sound echoes through the mountains, but it also attracts something far worse. The creatures. They begin slithering toward her, drawn by the noise. Just when all hope seems lost, the lift suddenly roars to life. Someone inside the mountain fortress has activated it. Claire wastes no time. She quickly ties her blindfold back on, preparing to escape. Meanwhile, Sebastian's fight takes a dark turn. He sees Anna again, but this time, something is different. Anna's ghostly form begins to burn. Her once soothing voice distorts into a nightmarish shriek. That's when it hits him. This isn't Anna. It never was. It was them, the creatures, manipulating him all along. Fury ignites in Sebastian. He grabs a metal rod and, without hesitation, drives it straight through Anna's chest. The illusion shatters. Beneath the disguise is not Anna, but the leader of the cult. The ones who could see the creatures and force others to do the same. At the same time, Sophia hears a voice, her mother's voice, calling out to her. Tears well up in her eyes as she moves toward the sound, but Claire grabs her just in time, stopping her from falling into the abyss. Back in the fight, the cult leader, now wounded, lunges at Sebastian. With terrifying strength, he drives the same metal rod into Sebastian's stomach. Pain surges through Sebastian's body. Blood spills from his wound. His legs buckle. Claire, sensing the lift's timing, takes a deep breath, then leaps inside with Sophia. The doors shut. They are safe. But down below, Sebastian collapses, the metal rod still lodged in his stomach. His breathing slows. And then, silence. Sebastian is gone. Above, the lift carries Claire and Sophia higher and higher toward the mountain fortress, their only hope of survival. Claire and Sophia finally reach the fortress, a place that feels like a world away from the chaos they just escaped. As they step inside, Claire is surprised to see a community of survivors. People are tending to vegetable gardens, working together to rebuild their lives. And then, Sophia's eyes widen. A familiar figure appears. It's her mother. Tears stream down Sophia's face as she runs into her mother's arms, clinging to her tightly. Claire watches, feeling a bittersweet relief. Soon after, a high-ranking woman, one of the commanders, approaches Claire and takes her for a medical checkup. As part of the process, they draw her blood. Claire, confused, asks, "Why are you taking my blood?" The commander explains, "We're working on a cure, something that will make us immune to the creature's effects. If we succeed, people will be able to look at them without losing control." Meanwhile, Claire notices a group of scientists conducting an experiment. They inject a mysterious serum into some test rats and then release them in front of the creatures, watching closely to see if the experiment works. But within seconds, the rats convulse, and one by one, they die. Failure. Again, a heavy silence fills the room. Their hope of finding a cure slips further away. And with that, the story comes to an unsettling end. So, what do you think about this movie? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next one.